Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 10 of the Tour de France 2025. Our recap brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling. 10 days in a row. Benji and I have never had to work so hard in our lives. We're very accustomed to 9 days at a maximum. Sometimes even when there's an international start, we get an extra break after Stage 3. But it was Bastille Day today, the 14 de Juillet, 14th of July, public holiday in France. I don't think it is in Andorra. And, well, it wouldn't make sense if it was because people were working today. And anyway, that means the roads were lined with spectators and we're in the Massif Central. We're in the roads where, if you remember the stages like Puy-Marie, Puy de Dôme, anything with Puy in it, I believe is from this area. We're near Clermont-Ferrand, 166...
Puy de Sourde?
No, that's in the
It's
Pyrenees.
also not Puy de Sourde.
We are 166 kilometers from Eneza to Le Mont d'Or, Puy de Sancy, and it is a brutal stage. Yes, it's only 166 Ks, but it's got 4,500 meters of climbing. Having watched this stage for the full 5 hours, I don't recall seeing anybody riding on the flat except for the first 7 Ks. It was literally climbing or descending the entire time, and a lot of it this is like the reverse Dainese stage because it progressively goes further and further uphill. The climbs are maybe 10 to 15 minutes typically, not that steep, 6 to 7%. There's 8 categorized climbs, a lot of Cat 2s. The final is the Col de la Croix Robert, which is 5.1 Ks, 6.3%. That's probably not how his name was pronounced. It's very exposed. It's a biggish road, a lot of cross headwind on there, and it's twisty. Then there's a technical descent, and then the last climb is reasonably difficult, 3.3 Ks, 7.7%. It is on a big road. But it does have some steeper sections of a K at 8.5% in the middle or first third rather. So hard stage, but not any climbs as hard as Puy-Marie.
Exactly, but imagine Patrick. Imagine you're a man like Jonas Ricard who rode in the breakaway all day yesterday and you get this stage presented to you on the platter for the next day. That is ruinous. And for sprinters, a parkour without a single flat meter, what felt like at least, that is insane. Now, when it comes to break formation, etc., you expected that phase of the race to actually be really good because, first of all, stage win is potentially up for grabs. I expected the stage to go to the breakaway on this stage because UAE controlling the breakaway, the entire stage, that felt unrealistic in advance to this because it's a very hard stage to control because breakaway formation, lots of people will try to attack. The Healys of the world, those are the riders we expected to go in the breakaway. The Mauro Schmidts, the Ben O'Connors. We had a long list of riders we named yesterday. But
every participant that's not a sprinter and not a top 10 GC guy should be in the break.
But did we expect more action from GC riders in the breakaway or secondary tier 3 GC riders? I did.
I think it could have happened, but it didn't for this reason. So first 7 Ks, no on serious jumps. Alaphilippe jumps too early. The first climb is a Cat 2, but they basically have a wall at the start of it. So that wall puts it in a line. It puts every sprinter, every rouleur on the limit. It puts Pollitt behind, not able to control. It puts Sivakov, who I think is sick. He's behind for UAE. And that first climb at 4Ks, 6% is then followed up by a 4K, 6% climb a few Ks after. I think if UAE were more aggressive controlling like they were in previous stages and did control, then in the succession of 7% climbs, the 3 category 2s from kilometer 48 to kilometer 78, that 30K zone, then I think it would have been hard already for 1 hour. And then half the domestiques are completely fucked and then it becomes free reign. But like you said, Benji, the only fringe GC guy I saw jumping was Matthias Schjelmoser.
Yep, that is true. It's also a rider where we said yesterday, that's a rider that UAE won't be like, okay, we got to mark Schjelmoser 100% here. Not necessarily. And also, other GC riders around, he's kind of on that fringe top 10 mark, which means that he doesn't necessarily have immediate response of Lipovic or Roglic or riders like that in the top 10 that might be like, okay, scared of Schjelmoser. But you're right. The only fringe top 10 GC rider that did it. And we didn't see much action from maybe Jorgensen, which I expected to jump in break formation like he did on the stage 6 breakaway stage, if I recall correctly. But then also next to that, I kind of expected a Lipovic move because he's He's the kind of rider that's done it before at the Dauphiné and maybe at a Tour de France or Giro before.
Bro, why didn't Bora bring Van Gils?
Well, I don't know.
Well, explain. Yeah, I mean,
I know I'm Belgian, but I didn't decide to bring Meus myself.
the Vlasov, like Van Gils compared to Vlasov shape night and day before this race. I agree, Benji. I mean, whose responsibility is it to control Felix Gall?
That's a good question.
Because to me, the psychology of these teams is completely different to the last mountain stage in week 3.
Yeah.
In the last mountain stage in week 3, we've had mountains. The GC hierarchy is more settled. Everyone kind of knows where they sit, and then an 8th place will defend a 10th place, jumping them. But now we haven't really had any mountains. I thought, where is, Felix Gall? It didn't happen, Benji. Initially, the break kind of goes... It went earlier than I thought. Big group, and it was on that first climb, and it was because EF had 4 guys in. They had Harry Sweeney. I mean, Harry Sweeney is fucking mutant. Like, he is one of the best climbing rouleurs in the world.
Why?
Right
Swiss
now.
time trial?
Yeah, the Swiss TT for starters, but then in the classics he was good, in Alps Maritime he was good, and then today Harry Sweeney in that breakaway was unbelievably good. So he rode that break. He killed UAE. We'll get to EF versus UAE in a second, but he killed UAE, Harry Sweeney. And they get 4 in, and they got Healy in. Healy's on 355 on GC, more or less.
Yeah.
They got Baudin powerless. They're committed. They're happy with it. And when you've got a rouleur like Sweeney pulling on these 4%, 5% of big roads, it's not easy to get across, nor control. He was already in with Alaphilippe. Jayco were in with O'Connor. Amiral and Paris-Pantra were in. And then it's pretty much done. Oh, I should do the full list. Lenny Martinez was there straight away. Valentin Paris-Pantra, Van Wilder, Campenaerts was in for Visma, not pulling. And Visma were like, they got 1 in. It's probably not as much as they wanted. Blackmore in with Woods and Lutsenko for Israel Premier Tech. Anders Johannesson in. And then Romeo was in for Movistar initially. I said Schmidt and Plapp and O'Connor for Jayco. Storer in with... So Tudor were happy, or maybe he came across later. Anyway, break looks like it's going. And very similar to stage 6.
I think
Simon Phillip
Yes.
jumps across. And Wellens doesn't like that. So it looked to me like Sivakov went in 1 move and then dropped. He was out, like gone. Pollitt's not there for this phase of the race. It's all Wellens. And Wellens starts pulling full. And he can't close the gap to Simon Yates. Simon Yates gets to that break. Sweeney starts pulling. And then I think UAE...
It took a bit. I feel like it took a bit.
They were trying to control it, right?
Yeah, 100%. When Simon Yates joined that breakaway, it became a 29-man breakaway with 2 Visma riders in it. We saw Wellens really trying to close that gap because they want an easier breakaway up the road. That's been the tactical philosophy of breakaway formation of UAE this entire race. What UAE wants at the start of a race is simple. They want a breakaway to go up the road with non-dangerous riders, with hopefully no Visma Lease bike riders. And then afterwards, they want to have the ability to decide, after the breakaway has formed, whether they can go for the stage or not. In this specific case, the breakaway forced their hands. 29 riders, including Simon Yates, and a bunch of riders that will ride, because there's so many teammates of riders that this initial hour, they will ride to keep that gap to the peloton.
Well, who are the tuggers?
Well, who are the tuggers? You just named like 7 teams with multiple riders in it. And Campenaerts is definitely a tugger, I would say, for Simon. We're calling it a tugger. Tug Buddy,
Tug Buddy.
is the official term.
I should say with the show.
Look at the merch, my friend. That looks absolutely stunning. We had...
Well, Plapp didn't pull much for O'Connor. He should have pulled, actually. Schmidt did pull for O'Connor.
Admiral pulled for Aurélien, I think.
Yeah, for Paris-Pantra. Quickstep had 2 in. So actually for Remco, it was looking good with Van Wilder and Valentin Paris-Pantra. So the PP brothers were in. Simmons was isolated. The last man to get across was Pablo Castrillo. The break was going to 45 seconds. UAE had given up. They'd pegged it at 30 seconds for a long time with Wellens riding full. And I thought, Benji, if Wellens had brought this back, I think UAE would have got a breakaway that was worse for them than the break that actually went. I think if UAE bring that back after how hard it was, then you have the Mars, the Lipovitz, the Schkelm, then you have the bigger problematic breakaway.
I think so as well, and that's the idea of over-controlling. At some point in this breakaway formation, you have to accept the breakaway that has formed, and eventually UAE does do that. Because initially, like we said, Wellens is chasing down, gap is around 30 seconds, etc. But then he sees it going up to 40 seconds, and that's when we see the tempo change in the peloton a little bit because Polit takes over from Wellens. And that's how I see when Polit starts taking over, that's for me okay. They change from breakaway control to doing a controlling tempo with Polit. But at that point, I'm saying a controlling tempo, they're trying to keep it at 2 minutes with Polit for the next 30, 40 kilometers.
Polit had it at like 1 minute for quite a while, and that's when Castrillo jumped across and Romeo waited for him, so Movistar wanted Castrillo in the break. But this break is fine if you're UAE.
Yep.
And if Ben Healy, Benji, how much time could UAE give Ben Healy?
To Pogačar, 20 minutes plus.
I think 20.
But the top 10 riders start to get worried then because Ben Healy, with the level he has,
yeah, but that's fine.
Can top 10 GC, but that's not UAE's problem.
Exactly. Then let Picnic and let Arkea get nervous and do Polit's work. So this breakaway is absolutely zero problem for UAE, and they ride hard for a lot of this stage. Now, maybe Benji, they were riding hard because on their training plan, I mean, maybe Polit's been detraining, and maybe he's sponsored by Join Cycling. I don't know who brings you this episode. The training up for cyclists who don't think of themselves as serious cyclists, because like training plans, you can think really rigid, really maybe cramps your style. It's for professionals. It's not for someone like me. But me and Benji use it, and Join Cycling has made us better on the bike than ever. Benji actually, he's been out and about all the time in Andorra. I've been really impressed with him, actually.
Luke scammed me. He sent me on a hike, 350 meters at 60 to 65%. I was rock climbing. And I bet you a year ago, when I wasn't doing Join Cycling training plans yet, I would have been falling off that rock instead of climbing up it.
And that Benji I led him astray because I also said, oh, well, I do a lot of my join sessions. Like yesterday, I did 3x3 mins VO2 max. I do it on, I wouldn't call it trail running. That's generous. I would say power hiking up 35% gradients. And Join still registers the activity, adjusts the plan, and it knows what you've done fitness-wise. So it's built for every rider, weekend warriors, fitness riders, commuters, anyone who just wants to get stronger. Keyboard warriors like ourselves. And feel no race license needed, no power meter even required. You can do it just with heart rate. And heart rate is what I actually did with the recovery plan initially, just smart adaptive training that meets you where you are and grows with you. So you don't have to be serious to take your ride seriously. Join Cycling is for everyone, and any of you listening can benefit from it. If you want to start your cycling journey, go to join.cc through the link down below to get a 30-day free trial. And after that, you even get a discounted annual subscription, which is very, very affordable. Less than 10 euros or USD a month, although Luke's the current CFX expert.
You spoke about Polit's training plan, but his abilities on the road today. First of all,
very impressive.
Amazing ride. But I actually think the over-controlling that we call, because we say, okay, UAE's spacing a bit too hard for the sake of this breakaway, which is a perfect breakaway. I think it's just the way they work. I think UAE likes controlling the breakaway for the first 60% of the stage, and then likes to let the gap grow out in the final 40% of the stage. Because they've always done that when they let the breakaway go. Do you really believe that Polit was keeping it close just in case they really wanted to go for it?
The gap was at 3. They had it pegged at 3:55 for just too long.
Yeah. They
had it pegged at the time gap of Ben Healy's GC, 3:55, for just too long. And there is an interesting inflection point in this stage. By the way, the breakaway is Ben O'Connor tried to Fuga at 110.
Martinez go endpoints.
Like a lot of people, the break's 29 riders deep. That means people are going to be ratting. So like Simon Yates and Campenaerts are ratting.
What's ratting?
Oh, they're not pulling. They're just sitting on. They're playing, we're here, satellite riders for Vingegaard.
Their luggage.
Yeah, they're not pulling through. Simmons is on his own. He's doing his fair share. So Simmons' curious case today, he had to take a bid on and get feeding from the other cars from Visma and Quickstep because you only have 2 cars in the race. Car 2 is in the Gruppetto with Milan. Car 1 is with Schelmoser. So in the break, Quinn Simmons is actually without a car. Anyway, he's actually pulling. It's mainly left to Israel Premier Tech. They've got Lutsenko pulling for Woods. And it's Harry Sweeney, as I said, him keeping the break going. And because, the other riders, if they're like, oh, well, Ben Healy can go into yellow, you do the work. Ben Healy destroyed everybody on stage 6. Ben Healy's the strongest in this break. You do the work, EF. And that's pretty much what happened. And the inflection point in this stage, Benji, is Pollard goes to get a drink. It's 3:55 the gap, and Wellens starts shredding. I don't know where, it may be 70 Ks to go. It's all hills, it's all up and down. He starts shredding. Gap goes down to 3:30, and he's like, it's in a line. You see people like almost dropping wheels.
Yeah.
And Sweeney's also pulling full in the brake, but at the same time, and it's 3:30, the gap doesn't drop anymore. And then at that point, he stops. Pollard comes back. They give up on yellow. They give up on the stage win. And Pollard just controls at a much steadier pace, and the gap goes way out to 6 mins.
But I'm surprised they did that. I'm surprised that Wellens tried to go so hard in the middle of the stage. That makes no sense to me. Like, I don't care if Healy takes the yellow jersey by 5 minutes this evening if I'm Pogačar. Because at the end of the day, Ben Healy's going to get dropped in the mountains by more than that. We said it already.
I think it's for the stage.
It's possible for the stage, but I think it's not worth it either. Like, there's lots of mountain stages coming in week 2. I know there's a rest day tomorrow, but why is there necessity to all out go for this specific stage when there's a lot more stages coming that are a lot more fun to take revenge on? Otakam, Cordlalos, Peragur ITT. Those are old school names from the Tour de France where Pogačar, Peragur he did pretty well on, but Cordlalos and Otakam he can take revenge on. Save your team on a day like today. And don't do what Wellens did in the middle of that stage. I don't think that was necessary. I think UAE should have just accepted that the break was winning the stage and just kept Pollard riding at a similar tempo until he was completely done. Then Wellens takes over, and if the break takes 7 minutes, the break takes 7 minutes. Don't care. But that's kind of what happens after your inflection point, where Wellens did try to close it a little bit, didn't work. Then they let the gap expand to 6 minutes. And Ben Healy's now in the virtual yellow jersey by like more than 2 minutes,
2
roughly.
mins,
And Lenny Martinez keeps getting KOM points, so he's basically in the KOM jersey after the stage. I'm pretty sure you might have to check that while I'm...
Yeah, Lenny's in KOM.
Okay. But then with 55 kilometers to go, we're on the second last... it's not really the second last climb, but like the second last climb section when you look at the profile.
It's up to 1400 meters. It's the Col de la Croix Morande. It's nothing climb. 3.5 Ks, 5.4%. Simmons attacks. Baudin is there now. Sweeney's dropped. Palace has dropped, and Baudin covers it. He was controlling well for Healy. It looked to me like EF has switched to, if you've done this much work anyway, if you have 8 guys that are going to sit on you anyway, you may as well make sure of yellow than playing 50-50 for the stage and losing yellow and the stage. I think it would have been very, very hard for Healy to win this stage. And yeah, Simmons goes, Healy countered. Everyone's in his wheel. Simon Yates is marking everything, so clearly he's going for the stage as well. And then they get to the top of this climb. Campenaerts goes from the back, full gas attack. He then starts pacing in the wheel. Healy and Simmons are in his wheel at the end. They've had to respond. Healy goes over the KOM point first. Lenny couldn't. I think Lenny was fucked at this point. Campenaerts is actually dropped. Baudin is dropped. And now the breakaway is only isolated riders. We have O'Connor. Aronsman looks very, very good. Quinn Simmons, Simon Yates, Michael Storer of Tudor. The only team with 2 is Israel Premier Tech, and then they have Joe Blackmore come back when Campenaerts comes back on the descent. I didn't understand the Campenaerts move, Benji, because Simon Yates, how does he win this stage? Drops everyone on the final climb.
Yeah.
If Simon Yates has to mark in this rolling terrain with cross headwinds, the mini aero bullet, the Brummy aero bullet, Ben
from
Healy,
AliExpress. Aero bullet from AliExpress.
I wouldn't
That's
say
too harsh.
That's too harsh. That's what I mean. He's
He deserves more than that.
Yeah, he's what?
He's got like the Tony Martin head thingy. Can we use that?
The Peaky Blinders Aero Express.
Jesus Christ.
if he has to mark him or Simmons in the valleys, he's gone. They're gone. No one's bringing them back.
Like, when Campenaerts attack at the top there, I was like, this is just stupid. I'm sorry. This is a 0 IQ move from Campenaerts. I can't give anything more than that. You're basically doing exactly as you say. You're ruining yourself before the top. He then drops just before the top as well, which means that he has to come back in the first part of the descent. If someone attacks there, Good luck to control it, Simon Yates.
The stage nearly goes. On that descent, there's a gap with Healy and Simmons.
Yeah.
And if Lenny Martinez doesn't close that gap, this stage is over. No one is bringing Simmons and Healy back.
So yeah, that was a dumb move by Campenaerts. Anyway, not the biggest deal in this stage. We continue further into the stage. We'll talk about the breakaway first here. With about 31 kilometers to go, there's also a move by Ben O'Connor here, and that's where Blackmore and Healy follow. And that was also an interesting moment because Ben O'Connor's like, okay, let's relay with these three. Let's relay. He looks around and Blackmore's not taking over. And he starts getting angry at Blackmore, but Blackmore's not pacing for a reason. His leader in the breakaway is Michael Woods, who's behind. So Blackmore's just marking that move for Michael Woods.
Holy shit.
And then Healy's right there as well. And did Woods finish lower than Blackmore? Ay. Underestimating Blackmore, I see. The team is doing.
Yeah. Well, like they did when they threw Baranza Pale in 2023 when they made him ride for Dylan Terns.
Yeah, that was a full disgrace. Anyway.
And then O'Connor got so mad.
O'Connor got so mad at Blackmore, but it's also that hesitation, that moment of hesitation of O'Connor getting angry at Blackmore is a perfect opportunity for Simmons to come from behind with Simon Yates singing the Wheel of Simmons and Storer as well. So those three come back and O'Connor keeps on shouting at Blackmore. And there's a situation where a few more people come back and suddenly we see O'Connor off the back of the group with Blackmore and maybe Anders Johannesson in his wheel. And he's like, come on, guys, take over. And obviously Blackmore won't do it. We just explained why. So O'Connor was getting overly angry for something that he probably should have realized by now, that Blackmore was not riding because Woods was there behind. Anyway, the rest returns and we get this like calm moment. Simmons attacks again. And this is what we need to talk about. We're on a climb now. With the 27 kilometers to go, that Simmons attack, that was a proper attack. And in the background, Ben Healy is pacing. And I'm saying pacing, I swear from this point onwards, for the rest of the stage, this man is, you know what I'm imagining when I think of Ben Healy? One of those headbutting dinosaurs that are like trying to headbutt, brute force their way through a wall. That was Ben Healy for the last 27 kilometers of the stage.
Well, yeah.
I picked him for the stage today, and I was really sad, but it was logical what he was doing. He was not necessarily prioritizing the stage win. He was prioritizing the fact that he's in the virtual yellow jersey, and he's trying to keep the gap to the peloton. And in doing so, he's just riding 5 meters, 10 meters behind Simmons this entire climb. Super impressive though, right?
In hindsight now, the Campenaerts attack that got rid of Baudin forced Healy into this position because I think Healy was so strong that he could have had his cake and eaten it too.
We're not giving credit to that Campenaerts attack. I'm not accepting the shit.
I'm more saying Healy was so strong that if he'd had a teammate controlling it for a bit further, he would have won this stage and he would have taken yellow. He only finishes 31 seconds adrift of the eventual winner in third, and he takes yellow by 29 seconds. I think if he'd had Baudin for longer, he could have done both. He was that strong. And yeah, Healy literally just pulls and it's in a kind of an echelon formation. I think we'll do break first and then go back to the GC group.
Okay. It's a Pachycephalosaurus, by the way.
Okay.
The headbutting dinosaur. Just wanted to get that out there.
How do you know if dinosaurs...
The chat said it.
Luke doesn't think dinosaurs are real anyway.
Patrick Lefebvre exists. Anyway, let's continue.
Speaking of people that don't believe in dinosaurs, Quinn Simmons in this breakaway, I mean, he was... he was struggling on the pace of on the second last climb store. I mean, Healy was putting everybody in the crosswind. Luke does believe in dinosaurs, by the way. That was just a joke. He said thank you for confirming that.
Miss Rouge was laughing in the other room.
I was committing slander upon his name. We get to that descent and we see Ben Healy just launching the descent. He's with Aronsman, Storer, O'Connor, Blackmore, Johannesson. Lenny's been dropped. Lenny has a massive nosebleed and just starts, there's blood all over his arm. It was kind of crazy, but he got KOM anyway.
He was trying to get the polka dots on his jersey already.
Yeah. Yates attacks out of the final corner of the descent, which goes straight into the next climb. Healy's launched him, And Aronsman had dropped the wheel. He said afterwards, I decided not to die on that corner and just give a bit of space. And so, I mean, it's hard you can't criticize him for that.
Yeah.
But Yates knew what he was doing. That was his plan. He gets a free launch straight into this climb. And we see O'Connor coming back to him maybe too quickly. Like he comes back, you see he's like, gets to 5 meters fast, and then he stalls, and I'm like, ooh.
And he starts looking behind a bit.
He starts looking behind, and he just squeezes and closes the last bit, and then I'm like, oh no, he's fucked.
Because you know that Simon Yates can keep this tempo up. He's a super experienced GC rider, super experienced climber, but he's also not necessarily renowned for attacking and then completely blocking. The dude is the Jebel Hafid king. I was going to say queen for some reason, but...
Well, that was Adam.
Simon Yates has done that as well, right?
On Jebel Hafid? I don't know.
I think 1 year at Jaco?
Probably.
Could be wrong. Anyway.
But yeah,
they're both the same anyway.
Him and Adam Yates are stop-start pure climbers. And so they do a burst, and then you're following, trying to match their pace, not realizing on 9%. And listen, O'Connor and Aronsman, they're like probably 8 kilos heavier than Simon Yates, maybe Aronsman more. This is a steep 8.5%, 9%. Aronsman gets back to him. O'Connor, they stop. Simon Yates hits them with the second attack, kind of like on Finestra. And this time, to be honest, I thought this was a wrap because O'Connor full cracks. Healy's out of the picture doing his own pace. But Aronsman, credit to him, very, very good legs. He gets to within 4 seconds, but then the last kilometer is quite steep. And then with 500, 400 to go, you see Simon Yates has a second kick. I do think, Benji, even if Aronsman gets back to him, how's he win? Simon Yates is just going to sit in the wheel, and then he's actually quite explosive at the end of this sort of climb, and Aronsman's not.
Aronsman's kind of like Sivakov, where he doesn't have like the sprint is kind of like, we can do this tempo all day, but not more than that. So I saw no way for Aronsman to win unless his tempo on the climb could explode Simon Yates, which I didn't expect. So Simon Yates just kept that gap. Sometimes it went down, sometimes it went up under the 1K banner. Eventually, Simon Yates takes the victory here on stage 10. Stage 10 of the Tour de France. And he does that after winning Giro d'Italia. He's been really strong in this Tour de France, actually. And it's also, you can see the strength in break formation. The way he jumped towards that breakaway.
It's like Dunbar.
And we saw Adam Yates also trying to close that down, etc. So UAE was trying to make sure that Simon Yates couldn't get into the breakaway, but failed in doing so. So Simon Yates is just super strong in the same way Dunbar, like you said, did before he unfortunately had to leave the race. So great stage win for Visma, but we'll get to the rest of Visma now.
Well, I didn't realize Simon Yates hasn't won a Tour de France stage in 6 or 7 seasons.
2 in 1 year?
2 in 2019. I think when you look at, maybe you look back at this Tour de France, Benji, and think his first 3 stages where he fell out of GC, it could be like Simon Yates right now is looking like probably a top 6, 7 climber in the race on the longer climbs coming up. So this at least confirms he's in good shape. I will say Aronsman finishes in second on 9 seconds. Healy in third on 31. O'Connor, hold on. Stora got, I'm seeing asterisks.
What do you mean asterisks?
In the PCS race results, there were asterisks. And
usually that's not a good sign, getting an asterisk next to your name.
Yeah, no. O'Connor finishes in fourth on 49 seconds. Stora on 123. Joseph Blackmore 357. Johannesson 438. And then now we'll go back to the GC group, Benji. We see this 25Ks to go. The last hill zone begins, and we see Benoit hard pacing, and he has, who is in the wheel? Koos?
Yes. So Benoit is pacing with Sepp Kuss in the wheel, and then Soler is in that wheel. And at this point, logical ideas. Visma Leasewijk is trying to set a hard pace here for the same reason we've brought up multiple times already, which is okay. By pacing, they try to reduce the explosiveness, the difference in explosiveness between Pogačar and Vingegaard. In case Pogačar attacks at the end, then Jonas can follow. Also, next to that, they try to reduce the teammates of Pogačar to make sure he doesn't have a lead out to attack at the end of the stage. But also next to that, I do think they're still trying to use the 2023 strategy of trying to make the race as hard as possible across 3 weeks in the hopes that Pogačar has some fatigue resistance problem, which I didn't see in 2024, so I don't necessarily believe in that. Or he forgets to eat or has a bad day somewhere, which is always a possibility in the sport of cycling. But what happens is, Benoit is pacing so hard, he's so good at these shorter efforts where he's pedaling so hard, Kuss is in the wheel, and then Soler starts to struggle. Soler is struggling in third wheel and he loses the wheel because he's done for. And because of that, we see those two riders, Benoit and Koes, riding off. Oscar only sees that, jumps towards those two riders. Also, interesting idea. We'll get to all of this. And then we see Benoit keeping that up until he's done for. Then he drops. So Koes then is like, okay, I'm going to keep going for a bit. Only is in his wheel, starts relaying with Koes. Like, from the second that Soler lost the wheel, the whole plan here is doomed.
But yeah, you just have to wait because the UAE domestiques can come back progressively at their pace. And so Soler doesn't full drop.
Yeah.
It's Adam Yates and Narvaez are still there. They just pace. Well, they don't even have to pace because when Only goes across, Arkea start pacing for Kevin Vauquelin, who, by the way, loses nearly a minute today. Like, I like Kevin Vauquelin. Very good rider. But these are the first 10 to 12 minute climbs we've had, and he got cooked. Like, he had a lot of suitable puncher stages in the TT. Like, Only's going to kill him in GC, I think. Should do in theory. But, yeah, Sepp Kuss attack isn't a problem for UAE.
No.
And they just pace it back.
Well, it was first Arkea that was pacing, like you said. But was there also another response by maybe Lipovic with Jordan Giga?
They come back, and then Adam Yates starts to properly pace. They seem to have Lipovic. Lipovic was not allowed to attack. Only was, Koos was. Lipovic was on the not attacking. Jorgensen goes. Pogačar in the wheel straight away. Remco's in the wheel. Jorgensen stops. Then Sepp Kuss does a big attack. And the UAE domestique's like, not a problem. But there's then this plateau, or it's like very exposed. Jorgensen jumps across to Koos. Koos starts pulling absolutely full. Adam Yates has to close it. You can see he's like really, really struggling. Narvaez is almost the strongest of the UAE guys. And then it stops. There's no follow-up. Soler returns to pace. We don't know where Campenaerts is up the road. And we still have 2 climbs to come.
And we've got this phase of this relative plateau section now where it's kind of okay. Control in that group, but then we get to the climb that starts just after that plateau segment. And that's where we see Visma Bike cooking something up again. And we see there that we have Jorgensen attacking again. We have Pogačar jumping to the wheel. Jonas in the wheel of Pogačar. And that's what happens most of this climb, to be honest. But I want to bring it to the question. Okay, we're talking about the idea of rolling attacks here. If Jorgensen attacks and Pogi gets to the wheel, is the logical move not for Jonas to counter that, to put Pogi in another response, and then see what happens with Jorg if he can follow Pogi or not? That's what you're looking for in like a rolling attacks move. Here it looked like we're just attacking with Jorg, and Jonas is still benefiting more than Pogi, so that's a benefit. But I don't think it was taking the full potential of a potential rolling attack.
I think the idea was that then Jorgensen would have, the UAE domestiques aren't there, there's a lack of control, and then other GC contenders see it as an opportunity to attack a Vauquelin, a Lipovic,
but at this point,
Remco, Evenepoel, but they're all thinking about the final climb and not losing time. And also Remco's satellite riders aren't there. Van Wilder dropped really early on the stage out of the breakaway.
Schialmos was dropping in the GC group though, but Narvaez was super impressive. You're talking about, okay, this might have been an attempt to drop the UAE domestiques, which is a fair argument, but Narvaez was still there then. And we see another move just before the top by Jorgensen, once again Pogi in the wheel, once again Jonas in that wheel. And that's where Narvaez gets in trouble, Adam Yates are in trouble. And this is where it gets interesting, because there's a guy from the breakaway, Mr. Victor Campenaerts. He might have killed himself on that random climb. It had some time to recover. He's back in the GC group, maybe a bit late over the top, to be honest. He should have waited at the exact top. But he still arrived right on time for something to work out. Because Campenaerts being the head, Jorgensen had to pull a little bit over the top, brought himself to the wheel of Campenaerts with the rest of the GC riders with him. But there was still a gap on Narvaez and Adam Yates in the second group there. So Pogačar is isolated in the descent towards the final climb.
And Campenaerts pulled his descent full.
So the goal of Visma Bike to not have a lead out for Pogačar on the final climb has succeeded here, despite some oddities and tactics that happened along the way that didn't go perfect. But it was perhaps going to be an interesting last 3 kilometer climb.
Well, I think the descent was more impactful than we maybe think. I mean, we don't have full coverage of it, but there were splits on this descent. I wonder if Remco had to close some gaps. I think Jagar was off the back. it was a really, like, there was at a certain moment when it was just Campenaerts, Jorgensen, and then Vingegaard was in the wheel of Pogačar, so Pogačar was having to close some gaps on the descent, and it was just the four of them. It comes back at the base of the final climb. Campenaerts is hard pacing. We see Narvaez trying to sprint across, and he blows himself up. Rodriguez, it then stalls. Rodriguez attacks.
Yeah.
Jorgensen attacks. Pogačar's then just following Jorgensen. He's not following guys like Rodriguez. Remco attacks. Lipovic attacks. And then Pogačar is clearly Lipovic is someone that Pogačar is marking.
But I do want to bring it to Remco there for a second. Yes, Remco Evenepoel attacks here with, let's say, roughly 1.7 kilometers to go. Pure guess.
Pog didn't respond.
Poggi didn't respond, but also not Visma Leasebike.
No.
So there's no fight for second place going between Visma and Remco. I'm truly of the opinion that, even based on the final today, that if Remco Evenepoel attacks, that Visma will try to use that as a ploy for UAE to have to make that UAE's problem. I think that's their idea, because they're going for the victory, not for a second place at this point in the race. And we see that here. When Remco attacks, there's no response from Visma Leasebike, but Pogačar also does not respond. So instead, we've got Oscar Onley and some Tier 2, Tier 3 GC riders, basically, responding to Remco closing that down. And is it wrong of me to believe that? I also don't think Remco is necessarily all in these attacks. I don't think he... I think there's a bit of scareness that he might get countered afterwards.
He did.
Well, he did get countered.
So then Lipovic goes again. Pogačar follows, and Pogačar counters off Lipovic. And the gap that he creates to the rest of the GC contenders is incredible in this attack.
20 seconds.
20 seconds, and Vingegaard's able to hold onto his wheel. When Vingegaard looked behind, we're maybe thinking, is this it? Is he going to get dropped on this 3K 8% climb? Is the tour over? He holds on. It was a long attack from Pogačar, so I think it's the first time Vingegaard's followed an attack from Pogačar since, on like a climb of this length, in 2 years.
Probably. Last year, definitely not at the Tour de France 2024.
No.
The San Lucas stage is not the same length. The hill stage so far is not the same length. So arguably that is true. Did Pogačar go all out? I would expect yes. It kind of looked like a long attack. He
didn't get a lead out though.
He didn't get. That's the reason why Visma Leasebike making it hard and dropping UAE domestiques during the stage is actually useful. Because with a lead out, Pogačar drops Vingegaard, in my opinion.
Exactly. Like the Visma, the way they rolled attacks, I wouldn't say
wasn't perfect.
Wouldn't say it was perfect. But in the end, UAE had a fucking hard day controlling with every team member. And in the end, they didn't have Narvaez and Yates on the final climb. And I think, as you say, Benji, if he, like we saw on Domolcy, if you have the Yates Narvaez lead out and then Pogačar goes seated on 10%, it makes it a lot harder to follow.
I do want to bring it to another place, because now it might sound that we're saying, okay, Visma Leasebike, fantastic day because Vingegaard didn't lose any time, which I think that's fair. They had a great day winning with Simon Yates, and Vingegaard did not lose time at this point in situation in the race. But on the other hand, they got to start taking time back at some point.
Exactly, yeah.
And right now, when I look at the race situation, Vingegaard is still quite a bit behind Pogačar. And yes, this strategy might reduce the odds on Pogačar dropping Vingegaard at the end of these stages, and it's working. But on mountain stages, Pogačar won't just stop after one attack. He'll go again. He'll go again. And maybe he won't, and maybe he just defends. But they need to find a way for Pogačar to have a bad day or something to happen there, because otherwise, with this strategy, they won't take time back either.
Well, I mean,
on paper.
Well, if he had a bad day today, you would have taken time.
Yeah.
But you have to try and create that bad day happening. That's why, like, every day I turn on the commentary and Brian Smith is just like, why Visma Leasebike trying to win the race today? It's like, bro, if you, like you said, Benny, if this is a procession and UAE get to do their race plan and be in total control every day, Pogačar wins.
But there's also the other factor. Yes, Simon Yates wins the stage now. For a team like UAE and Visma Leasebike, a stage win is great. But at the end of the day, it's also an investment of Simon Yates into that breakaway that is not being used in the peloton for Jonas Vingegaard. I sound like Trine Hansen at the moment, but what I'm trying to say is that
if Simon Yates was there in the peloton,
I'm not sure it changes the outcome.
Pogačar wins the stage. Well, he would have.
Because Simon Yates would lead out.
He would have won the stage. So at least there's no bonus seconds taken by Pogačar.
But what I'm trying to say is, Visma is focusing on multiple things in this Grand, which is fair because they're not the favorite. But on the other hand, it also means that they might be leaving some runs on the table in some stages that might become useful later. Because if Simon Yates keeps doing this every single stage and tries to go for breakaway stages, then it takes away from some strength for Vingegaard in the peloton too.
Yeah, I think on this sort of stage, you're not going to take a minute back on Pogačar.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of defense via attack. In the end, Pogačar's, Vingegaard can respond. Lenny Martinez starts pacing them. That's the curious part of this. They get across to Lenny Martinez. He just starts pacing full gas. I don't know what would have happened if the group had come back, but I also don't know why Lenny paced. I guess for the top 10 result on the stage. Lipovic and Jorgensen outsprint Remco, who no one was helping Remco pull. I think that's going to be a continuing theme, Benji, that Jorgensen can play the card of Vingegaard ahead, and that's actually going to help him compared to Remco on a lot of the climbs coming up.
Also because Remco is the kind of person that if he's in a second group syndrome vibe,
he just paces.
He has to pace, but he's also the kind of guy that gets angry throughout, and his angriness doesn't necessarily help his chances to decrease the time gap either. I feel like in the last couple of races we've seen him do that.
So in the end, they only lose 3 seconds. Jorgensen and Lipovic on Vingegaard and Pogačar. 6 seconds back to Remco, only Tobias Johannesson and Roglic. Felix Gall, not so good. He lost 20 seconds. Carlos Rodriguez lost 24 seconds. Kevin Vauquelin lost 51 seconds. No, my math is bad. 9 plus 46 seconds. Enric Mas lost 50 seconds. So that's not good for his GC. And that's mainly... And Schelmoser lost a lot of time.
Yeah, he lost quite a bit of time.
Like 3 minutes. So the GC, Ben Healy takes the yellow jersey, 29 seconds ahead of Pogačar, 129 ahead of Evenepoel, Vingegaard on 146, Jorgensen on 206, Vauquelin 226, loses 3 positions, Only on 324, Lipovic 334, Roglic 341, Johannesson 503, Schelmoser falls out of the top 10 into 15th.
But in the grand scheme of things, the stage doesn't change much.
No.
It does show that without Almeida, there's a bit of a difference in team strength because Visma Leasebike looked stronger than UAE, but Narvaez really stepped up on this stage. On this medium mountain stage, this is what I expect on a hill stage from Narvaez. This was a medium mountain stage, and Narvaez was doing Wellens Blue type shit. And I did not expect that. But I also feel like Adam Yates is not going to... Based on what I've seen in the last week, Adam Yates is better than stage 1. But he's not at the level of previous Tour de France where he's in that Almeida role for Pogačar. So in a mountain stage, if you've got 6 riders left, there's a really big chance that Pogačar is isolated and that Visma has 2 riders, maybe 3 with Kuss if he can find his old level in the mountains back. Today looked good.
No, they have 3 with Simon Yates, Jorgensen.
Simon Yates as well. Well, he might be in the breakaway.
Exactly. But Adam Yates he looks fine.
Yeah.
He does not look like the 3rd best climber in the race, which he was in 2023 when he podiumed the Tour de France. So I think Narvaez indeed, Benji, very, very good today. And the question is, can he do that on the longer climbs, not the medium mountain climbs?
I think the benefit for Visma is that Pogačar 100% reacts to every Jorgensen attack at the moment. Because that makes Jorgensen a ploy for rolling attacks. If Pogačar doesn't do that, and on the second last climb lets Narvaez and Adam Yates take care of that slowly, that changes the game, because then Jonas is the only person that can hurt Pogačar individually, no?
And the thing is, like, Jorgensen's a problem if you're closing him on flat or moderate gradients, because he's big. He's putting out a lot of power. That's hurting Adam Yates a lot.
Big power.
Big man, big watts. Yeah, exactly. If the big man climbs fast, they got big watts. So we'll see in week 2, Benji. We're not going to do a rest day recap, but in terms of...
What are we doing on the rest day?
You're going back to the UK, and I'm having a rest.
Content-wise? We've got something coming up?
We do have a video coming up.
Ooh.
We will have a little rest day video.
On YouTube, though?
On LRCP YouTube, yeah. I think Almeida is a big loss because in the high mountains, it could be that Visma have more firepower. Will it matter if Pogačar is by far the best? Maybe not.
It will bring itself to a situation where, hypothetically, we go into Otakam and Visma Leasebike is hard pacing and they drop all the UAE guys except Pogačar. You've got Simon Yates, you've got Jorgensen, you've got Vingegaard with him. Then we might see rolling attacks after Simon Yates might pace, Jorgensen might roll attack, Pogačar reacts. Pogačar's best move in that situation is offense. If you're against a numerical advantage, Pogačar is the person that can reduce it to Pogačar versus Vingegaard. But then the problem is, what happens after he makes that attack? And if he hypothetically in that situation can't drop Vingegaard, then the other two come about.
Then Lenny Martinez is there.
The last kilometer, when Lenny Martinez today
I was like,
came to Jonas and Tadej, I was like, oh my. And he kept on pacing. It wasn't that 7 watts per kilo, but the way he was pacing and bobbling his head. The blood coming out of his nose left and right.
Crazy. But indeed, like Pogačar's got 117 on Vingegaard.
Yeah.
That's a big gap. That being said, Pogačar's not the sort of rider that wants to nurse a 117 gap to Paris.
Yeah.
So
he wants to take time on Otakam. That's what Pogačar wants to do.
We'll preview stage 11 from Toulouse to Toulouse. It's a hill stage, 157 kilometers long. There's a category 4 in the first 25Ks, which is 1.5K, 6%. The intermediate sprint's halfway through in not so difficult a zone. And then we have a succession of 7 hills, some of which are quite difficult. 3 Cat 4s, 1 Cat 3. The last one is 9Ks, the crest from the finish. And they're all reasonably hard. So the second last one's 1400 meters, 7%, then descent, and then 800 meters at 10%, the Côte de Pêche David, before a flat section to the finish. It's before the Hautacam stage. It's before 3 very hard and crucial mountain stages, one of which is a mountain time trial. Who's controlling this stage, Benji?
Ooh, who is controlling this stage? Let's talk about it for a second here. We've got, I think it's a breakaway stage.
I think so too, because if you're any of the versatile sprinters teams, you know if the stage wins in play from the peloton, that Van der Poel will just win. And so I think...
Or will try to win.
Will Alpecin try to control?
I think it's going to be them putting themselves into the breakaway for the reason that they will think that most of the peloton will try to attack to begin with.
And that's, so I think...
Luke's whispering Caden Groves in our ears?
No chance.
Sorry for throwing Luke under the bus then. I don't feel it.
From what we've seen on stages 2 and 4, the versatile sprinters are getting shelled.
Van der Poel in the breakaway I expect from Alpecin. I don't expect them to necessarily control. Intermediate sprints in the middle of the stage, not at the start, so we won't see necessarily the control at the start of the stage from a little track either for the intermediate sprint. I don't know, I think it's a simple breakaway stage, but who are we looking at in a breakaway stage then? Because this is not like the Ben Healy breakaway stage either for me.
I'm looking at EF though.
You're looking at EF though. Well, they had a strong team. Mauro Schmidt today wasn't necessarily as strong as I expected, but on stage like that, on stage 11, that's a different kind of story. I'm going for Romain Grégoire.
You're going Grégoire. I'm going for Matthias Schellmoser.
Really?
Because he said he's out of GC, he's going in the break. Actually, will he be allowed in the break? Yeah, on this stage, probably, because this break shouldn't take that much time. I still think Healy could win this stage.
Simmons could too.
Simmons, yeah. I think Simmons and Trek should go on the breakaway. So, actually, Trek have to go on the break, Benji. Trek want the break to win. If you want Pogačar to win green, then Pogačar has to win the stage or come second to Van der Poel in the sprint, and he takes more green. But Trek have to make the break win here.
I agree. But then again, the more people they put in the breakaway, the less points Milan can take at the intermediate sprint halfway through.
Yeah,
Milan goes in the breakaway.
Milan goes in the breakaway. Well, it's not that hard, is it?
There's one hard climb at the start, but come on, Jonathan.
I think Binny's going to try get in the break.
He should try 100%.
If Binny wants green, he also has to be in the break.
Yeah, for sure.
And Binny was climbing well today.
But we're speaking about this stage 11. I'll be honest, don't particularly care that much about the stage in the grand scheme of things. I want to talk about the grand scheme of the Tour de France. We've had our pre-race podium predictions. Do you remember yours? I think mine was, I had Almeida in P3, which that's not happening. I had Evenepoel in second, and I had Pogačar in first. I think I'll have to put Jonas on the podium right now if I have to rearrange it, but it would be unfair if I put Vingegaard in second right now. So I'm going Poggi, Remco, Jonas for Remco to try and benefit of Vingegaard overextending. Do I 100% believe in that? Objectively, I say no. Objectively, I think Pogačar, Jonas, Remco in third, but Remco hasn't necessarily impressed me as in he's going to deliver the podium 100% in the high mountains either. So that's the vibe I'm feeling right now. But how are you feeling objectively at the Tour de France?
I think Remco has to just fight for third.
Yeah.
From now on. I think he shouldn't.
He should ride his own tempo on the mountains anyway. He should not react to Tadej Pogačar. Should not react to Jonas Vingegaard.
The gap between him and Pogačar and Vingegaard on the climbs looks after a hard day looks really big.
It's why I don't believe he can beat Vingegaard unless Vingegaard makes a brutal overextension to beat Pogačar and capitulates, which I don't see.
Either of them could have taken 30 seconds on him on this climb in like a K and a half.
Yeah,
2Ks. So I think Almeida out is big. I think Vingegaard is good enough that if Pogačar does lose like a Grenade, like 3 minutes, Vingegaard might be able to defend a 2-minute advantage. So we'll see. I think Vingegaard looks pretty good, but also he didn't attack. Pogačar's only offensive, and Pogačar covered everything easily, so it's not like Pogačar was ever under pressure.
At the moment, I feel Pogačar, Jonas, but with Remco, I'm not 100% sure in podium position. Like, he's had a great week so far.
Yeah, but we didn't do any climbs yet.
Exactly. And his Dauphiné climbing did not impress me.
No.
So, who are his main competitors right now for the podium?
Jorgensen.
Yeah, but you'd expect that at some point Jorgensen might have to pay for the fact that he's being used as a ploy for Jonas to beat Pogačar at the moment.
I think his podium competitors are Only, Jorgensen, Lipovitz, Roglic.
Gull. I think
that's it.
How was Gull at the final of this stage?
Bad shit. Lost a lot of time.
On the second last time, I was thinking, okay, Gull's going to kill everyone here now.
Yeah, but he probably, sitting up in the cross headwind all day, he probably did 50 watts more than everybody else.
Yeah, but Remco also, like this entire stage, Remco sitting in P7, P8.
I have no idea why they're doing it. Pollitt's pulling at 55, up and down.
Someone needs to tell Soudal Quickstep that if you see UAE at the front of the peloton with 4 riders, and then we see Quickstep sitting behind that with Remco, but Pogačar is not there. The reason Pogačar is not there is because he's in the belly, trying to vote all the wind at the moment.
Why is Pogačar sitting deeper?
Because he wants to avoid being in the wind.
Like, so if he's doing it, then you should probably think about doing it too, is a good general principle.
And then some people respond, oh, but Benji, Patrick, you're talking about sitting in a position that is less safe, but we're talking about the middle of the race where if Pogačar's sitting there, it's for a reason. It's because it's not a moment in the race where safety is
paramount,
expected to be endangered in a way.
Anyway, I think the Toulouse stage will be pretty exciting. Probably breakaway. I think we're coming up to a good second week. There's no real sprints in the second week, so maybe the sprinters teams will delude themselves into thinking they will have a sprint on stage 11. I really don't believe in it. But indeed, we have then a succession of 3 extremely difficult stages after that. Normally, it's a 6-stage week. It's only a 5-stage week. Yeah. And we have 3 mountain stages after Toulouse, then a breakaway stage on the Sunday. So I hope you enjoyed the recap. Thanks for joining Cycling as always, and we'll see you on Wednesday with the recap of stage 11. Till then, ciao, ciao.